Wingman Joker, thank you for listening to this channel and please support the channel. Please subscribe. Chapter 41, Resolval. The door of the mansion was pushed open without a warning, shoving the man standing behind it to the ground. Victor strode inside arrogantly and looked around the room in silence, waiting for Lily to close the door, as he didn't want to startle the snake outside. It only took him seconds to analyze the entire situation here. The twins who sat on the ground were missing a lot of their clothing, and he could see pieces of shredded fabrics around them. They do have beautiful bodies. I will let them show it to me later, he thought. Hilda was also on the ground and her situation did not look good, but Victor knew that she was a player, and she would not die that easily. Nick was standing in front of the twins with his bare chest. He still had his pants on, so Victor knew he arrived at the right time, and maybe a little too early. He wanted to play the hero but he couldn't take the risk. Nick's actions truly surprised him though. Why would he assault the twins ignoring the family's rules, unless he wouldn't be found out? Ah, he gets it now. Victor quickly focused on Nick and appraised him. Name: Nick von Weiss. Level: 0. Class: Authority: 1. Strength: 13. Agility: 13. Intelligence: 15. Luck: 9. Charm: 15. Order: 22. Skills: Minor Boxing Arts E. Virginity Appraisal E. Little Menacing Aura F. Fate Status: F. Falling. Fated to die no matter what. Interesting skill, thought Victor thought as he looked at the two men Nick brought with him. The who one was thrown to the ground, was trying to stand up, while the other was holding a stick in his hand. They had similar looks, bald heads and muscular build, and some tattoos hidden behind their shirts. Maybe brothers. Victor quickly whispered a few words to Lily who had just closed the door firmly behind him. Don't kill them, and make sure to leave one of them able to drive, he said, as he strode into the hall with a smile, clapping his hands. Very nice show. You are my brother Nick, I presume, he asked as he walked to Nick. Yes, and you should be little Victor, said Nick, who turned to face Victor, who out of nowhere suddenly appeared in front of Nick, then hit him hard on the stomach, making Nick fly in the air then collapse on the floor after hitting a marble column on the entrance hall. The bald man with the stick was surprised by the surprise attack, but he quickly got himself together and rushed to save his master, but was stopped by a cold feeling on the top of his bald head as a gentle hand grabbed his skull and pushed it against the cold marble floor. He didn't know what happened. He could see his brother was on the ground near him grimacing in pain. What happened to him? What is hurting him? He questioned, and soon got the answer when Lily's slender foot crushed something between his legs. She has been learning how to subdue bad men from her young master. Seeing Victor hit Nick and Lily effortlessly crack the balls of the two bald men, the twins were relieved, so they quickly stood up and ran to check on Hilda, forgetting to cover themselves. Victor looked at them with a slight smile, then frowned as he saw the bruises of Nick's kicks on their tender skin. How dare he? Victor went to where Nick fell, then grasped him from his brown hair and lifted him up. Dear brother, do you know why I hit you? He asked Nick, who was holding his stomach in pain and could only spit blood when he tried to talk. Nick's situation was not good. Victor didn't keep his hand in that hit and some of Nick's ribs were broken. He could not move or use any skills because of the pain. He didn't expect Victor to be this strong or this unreasonable. Let me guess, you didn't expect me to be this strong, huh? Said Victor, who could easily read Nick's thoughts from his eyes. Do you know why I hit you? Ah, it seemed that you were in no situation to speak, so let me enlighten you. Victor said as he slapped Nick on the face, making him spit a couple of teeth. It was because you were an idiot, he said in a loud voice, then grabbed Nick's bloodied head and brought it close to his mouth, and whispered. The ones who ordered you to kill me tricked you. I am a full player, he said to Nick, making him realize the truth, before kicking him between his legs, cracking some eggs and making Nick scream in despair. Do you know why they told you that? Victor continued to whisper. Because they wanted to implicate me in murdering you, he said as he threw Nick, who was wailing on the ground. I will not kill you. That goes against the family rules, Victor said loudly as he stopped whispering. Now, your first crime. It is doing such a dirty thing in the entrance. Don't you have any manners? Such things should be reserved to the bedroom. Victor said as he broke Nick's right leg by stepping on it, making him scream again and spit blood. Poor Nick did not have the chance to act from the first moment Victor started to act, and when he looked for his two henchmen, he found them wailing while holding their balls. Your second crime was touching my girls, said Victor. This young master hates others touching his girls, he added as he broke Nick's second leg. Your fourth crime, wait no, your third crime is destroying my properties. Do you know how much the dress the girls were wearing is worth? ellipsis 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 dot dot. I don't, he said as he looked at Lily for an answer. It was $30,000, young master, $60,000 for two, said Lily with a smile. Ah, did you hear that? Do you think my money grew on a tree? I had to struggle for whole 9 months in my mother's womb to get it. Victor said to Nick as he broke his third leg, making him faint in pain and anger. Looking at him, Victor nodded in satisfaction. Now we can get to business, he thought. Now you two, Victor pointed at the two bald men who were squirming around on the floor. No need for acting, I can tell that you had been able to move 2 minutes ago. If you don't stand up now, I will let Lily keep hitting you there, till it cracks for real, he said, making the two hooligans stand up immediately and salute in respect. We should please this guy, they thought. Now take off your clothes, all of it, he said. Leave nothing on, not even pendants, rings, or watches. What? Everyone, including Lily and the twins, looked at Victor with surprise. What is this young master thinking? Didn't you just take the girls' clothes off? Now you strip too, come on, this young master wants to see some skin, he said with a perverted smile. The twins turned their heads to the ground and tried hard to keep their attention on Hilda, who regained consciousness but was too weak to move. They decided to ignore this young master for now. They didn't hate him though, as they knew that he had just saved them, and he was doing all of this as revenge for them. But they couldn't be more wrong. Victor has different reasons. Lily soon lost her patience, looking at the two hesitating men. The young master has told you to undress, so undress. I don't want to see any piece of fabric on you. Or do you prefer to taste my foot again? She threatened them. They looked at each other before reluctantly taking off their clothes with a sigh, showing off their muscular tattooed tanned backs. Their hesitation was not that of shyness, but there was something wrong with the head of this young master. And they were afraid he might do some unspeakable things to them. Victor nodded his head in satisfaction as he inspected them, making the two men shiver in fear. Would he really do that to them? Now, undress Nick too, he has to. Share the punishment. How dare he touch my girls? He said arrogantly. The two men looked at each other, then at Nick, who was unconscious, deciding whether to do it or not. If Nick asked them later, they would be able to say that it was the twins who undressed him. So under Victor's investigating look, they helped Nick out of his final shred of clothing, rendering him in that same image in which his mother gave birth to him. Victor moved quickly and took all the clothes, forming a small pile, using them and then sitting on it in triumph. He has just inspected them and noticed that none of them carried a phone. They didn't want anyone to know that they were here. Those are my trophies, he said in a proud smile. Now kneel on the ground and apologize to the twins till I am satisfied. He ordered them. They quickly nodded, then turned to the twins, knelt, and began to ask for forgiveness from the twins, who dared not look at the two naked men. Nick seemed to regain consciousness, so Victor quickly shot him a kick, returning him to the world of dreams, while he secretly snatched the two rings in his fingers. As the men did not dare take them off him. After about 10 minutes of waiting, Victor estimated that he had given the idiot outside enough time to do his deed. That's enough, you can carry Nick and leave now, Victor said to them loudly, and don't forget to tell him when he wakes up, that if he did anything like this next time, the punishment would not be this light. He screamed at them. The men nodded, then stood up and carried Nick away quickly, as if fearing this crazy young master would change his mind. We are free at last, they mistakenly thought. Chapter 42. My precious. The car was speeding along the highway with 3 naked men, 2 on the front seat, and 1 fainted on the back. Luckily for them, it was already dark, and they kept the lights off, so no one saw them. They wanted to get to a hospital fast, but the nearest one was 20 minutes away. And their phones were left in a hotel room, as they didn't want to be traced. Ah, the driver heard the sound of his master waking up in the back, but he didn't say anything, just kept focusing on the road while praying that his punishment would be light. What happened? Nick asked as he opened his panda eyes and looked at himself. He saw nothing, it was pitch black. And only the light from the reflected headlights made him see the silhouette of 2 bald heads in the front seat. Why am I naked? He thought first, then tried to sit down, but the pain from his legs made him fall and hit his head on the seat again. Looking at the car's roof, he slowly remembered being hit by his brother. Fuck, he thought, as he remembered what Victor told him. They have set him up. They have probably discovered that he was building his own army and decided to sacrifice him. He let his desire for getting the twins blind him, and fell into their trap. Thankfully Victor did not dare to kill him. And he will have a chance to exact revenge on all of them. He reached his hand to touch his ring, which he killed his best friend to get. This is his tool for revenge. his army of death warriors which he has been training for a year and a half now. He will make them castrate Victor for their first mission and then he will make them kill that scheming pony-tailed cousin of his. After that, he will appear at his brother's funeral to take the two twins as their new master. He thought with a perverted smile as he touched the ring. Where is that ring? His finger was empty. What? Did he put it in his pocket? Where is my pocket? Where are my pants? Where are my clothes? Why am I naked? My things. My precious. Nick just remembered that he was still naked. Turn on the F*** King lights, he yelled at his hunchmen in the front to turn on the car's interior lights. The men hesitated for a second, then nervously pressed the light switch on the front panel. What Nick saw was not his naked body, nor was it his broken legs, but a white light inviting him to the afterlife. Kaboom! The car exploded into a flaming ball of steel, illuminating the deserted mountain road. Chapter 43. Something's to do. Hearing the sound of the car leaving the mansion, Victor breathed a sigh of relief. He quickly stood up and went to Hilda and checked her situation. While the twins took their phones to call an ambulance, but Victor stopped them as he didn't want Nick to meet them on the way. Don't call anyone, she will be fine, he said. Her situation was not good, but Victor knew that she would live. Players were very resilient, and have a way to help her. His merchant skill has just finished its cooldown, so he quickly operated it, and bought bottle of minor healing, for 5,000 coins. Secretly taking it from the shop, he got a bottle containing 5 round red pills. This is the cheapest kind of medicine in the system shop. It has a full healing effect on players under level 15, a medium effect for levels 15 to 25, and a low effect for levels 25 to 30. It will not work for higher levels. Victor quickly turned to face Hilda and the girls and took one pill from the bottle and fed it to Hilda, who realized what this is, and was very grateful to Victor. As she realized the pill's value, there was no visual effect, no red light, but Hilda, who was still covered in blood and relatively weak, was able to sit down with some help. She knew that she was about 50% healed. She would be able to walk by herself tomorrow and would be fully healed in a week. Young master, what is this pill? Asked Mina. It's a secret product of my family, don't worry. Hilda would be back to normal by tomorrow as her injury was very light. He lied. Why don't you take her to her room and take care of her, he said. The twins were hesitant. What if there was something wrong? Don't they need a doctor? Or do you prefer to stay here with me and continue showing me your bodies? He asked with a smirk. The girls had just remembered that they are nearly naked, so they quickly ran away to find something to cover themselves, leaving Hilda and Victor alone in the hall. As for Lily, she seemed to have disappeared somewhere while they were not looking. Call my father and tell him what happened, Nick might want to revenge. Victor said to Hilda in a serious tone, as if Nick would still be alive tomorrow. Understood. Is the pill a secret? Said Hilda. Not from my father, he answered as he looked at the twins, who returned after getting dressed and quickly helped Hilda to her room in the servants' building. Tonight spend the night with Hilda, and be ready for our trip at 6 a.m. tomorrow. He told them as they walked away. They seemed to be asking Hilda if she really didn't need a doctor. Watching them leave, Victor looked at Lily, who has just returned from the outside. How was the situation? Jacob is not here anymore, and I did a preliminary check, and there seem to be no bombs in the mansion, but I still need to do a more thorough search on the forest and the unused buildings. Okay, start searching, be careful. And if you find any recording devices, leave them be as if you haven't seen them, just note their position. He said to her, I have a few things to do tonight, so if anyone asked about me, tell them that I am very tired and went to sleep. And don't let anyone into my room, I don't want anyone to know where I am, he said. Lily nodded her head, but she seemed a little worried. So Victor slowly petted her head. Don't worry, I am stronger than you think, he said. Boom. Suddenly there was a sound of an explosion in the distance. Both Lily and Victor smiled evilly as they knew what that was. Poor Nick has probably already become a cooked Nick. Now go do your job, he said with a frown. His plan may have been a little reckless, but this is the best for now. He has to tread carefully though, as there will be a family investigation after this. Understood, she said before glancing at Victor. You too, be careful, young master, she said in a soft voice as she left. Ellipsis. First of all, Victor collected the clothes on the ground and inspected the belongings of Nick and his friends. The two hooligans had nothing of value. As for Nick's belongings, there were some interesting things. There were a few bank cards, but Victor knew that those are worthless. No smart man would put his real wealth in a bank if he intended to hide them from the family. Nick also had no phone, so he probably hid it somewhere before he came. There was also his yellow family token and the administrator ring Nick used to torture Hilda. This ring was signed by his father and given to Nick to manage Vane City's shadow business, so it would only work on Theodore's servants. Victor would not take any of those, as he would be questioned about them when the family inquisitor arrives, so he left them with the rest. What Victor found interesting were one strange ring, a set of 3 unidentifiable keys, and a glass vial containing some kind of a liquid. So he took those and left the rest on the entrance, tucked in a corner. The 3 keys had a number and a logo of a storage company he knew. So it was probably where Nick hid some secrets. The strange ring was an artifact, Victor could feel it, so he used his appraisal skill on it. Ring of the Minor Masters F+. Owner: none. Brand slave tattoo on target grants abilities to kill, inflict pain, locate, communicate. Requires the target to be a non-player and not to resist the branding. 41/50ths branded. Oh, so Nick was building his own army, thought Victor. The ring having no owner indicates that Nick had truly died. And this ring was interesting, but not in the way that stupid Nick used it in. And this would make his job tomorrow a lot easier. Victor quickly cut his finger and marked the ring with his blood. Now it belongs to him. As for the slaves, he would check on them later. After that, he looked at the glass vial. It had blue sparkling liquid inside, so Victor opened it and took a quick sniff, then closed it immediately with a terrified face. That was dangerous, he thought. This vial contains an aphrodisiac, not one meant for women, but for men. Victor knew that it was meant to be used on him. He does not have a use for this now, but it would come in handy later. Victor smiled as he thought of the man he was going to use this on. Taking a deep breath, Victor took those things and put them in his pockets. Now it's time to go hunt some snakes, he thought. Ellipsis. Victor left the mansion in secret after changing his clothes to a black sneaking suit and used the disguise skill to hide his presence. When he reached the bottom gate, he saw that idiot guard sitting on his comfy chair reading some adult's magazine with a perverted smile on his face. Victor really wanted to smack him dead, but he knew that this was not the right time to do it. He needed him as a witness of Nick leaving the mansion. And killing him now would raise unwanted questions. Nick probably planned to kill him too, after killing everyone else in the mansion to hide his track. On second thought, he should leave such a lucky guard alive as he has already managed to escape death twice today while doing nothing. Earlier, Victor thought that the guard was conspiring with Nick. But now he discovered that this guy was just a lucky idiot. Every young master should have an idiot guard. So he will keep him and use him later. He needs to punish him though, for letting the twins return to the mansion without a warning about Nick. But that would have to wait too. Now, where did that snake go? Chapter 44. Hunting snakes and brewing poisons. Victor moved fast through the forests, following the black fate thread he was tracking with his skill. He activated it earlier when he spotted Jacob at the mansion. He stayed away from the highways to avoid any security cameras, and kept on going for half an hour until he reached a faraway community. He quickly felt the thread's connection getting stronger. Jacob was nearby, he could feel it. He activated his disguise skill, and soon turned into a tall youth, with a pretty face, sword-like eyebrows, and purplish-red long hair, arranged in a ponytail. Then out of the forest. He smiled as he saw his reflection on a nearby storefront window. Now let's continue. If Nick saw him like that, he would think that this was the man who ordered him to kill Victor. He didn't hide anymore but didn't show himself either, just walked as if he was trying to hide, making sure to be captured only on a few faraway cameras, and avoiding the obvious ones. And soon he reached an abandoned apartment building. He went in silently after checking that there was no one around, then went upstairs to the 5th story where the thread stopped pointing up. When he reached a certain apartment, he sneaked in silently with his disguise skill. He could easily find the strings and cans that were probably put there by Jacob to warn him of intruders. But with Victor's experience, he was able to walk silently until he saw Jacob sitting in a room inside cleaning a gun with a little smile. Victor sneaked behind him and struck him hard on the neck, killing him in just one move. That's how you deal with poisonous snakes. No need for pointless chatter. As he killed them, he could feel the black fate thread he locked with his skill, snap, and his skill was free again. But there was an additional reward. He felt as if that black thread's energy were added to his own fate. He will have to investigate this later, but for now, he has more pressing issues. He quickly searched the body but found nothing of importance, just a passport and a plane ticket to another country. Victor quickly took those and burned them, as they would implicate Arya. She would be in a problem anyway though, as this idiot was her uncle, and if her secret was discovered, it would lead to her death, so he have to give her a better position in the family to protect her. He searched the apartment for some big garbage bags, but found nothing and could only roll Jacob in a tattered rug he found in an adjacent apartment. He took him and went out, heading to the forest, where he threw him inside a hole he found earlier. Then covered him with a thin layer of dirt. He made sure that the corpse would be found easily. Then he hid again and changed his look into a middle-aged man, then returned to the downtown and headed into a storage building. He was going to check on Nick's keys. In the first 2 storage compartments, there was a lot of cash, stacked in black bags. Victor didn't touch them, as he will not need them. And when the family traces Nick's movement they would probably be discovered. As for the last one, it contained some documents, cards and identity papers. So he took those and put them in his bag, then left the building and went to a nearby train station after changing his shape, where he rented a storage box and put the things he took from Nick in it, including the ring and the vial. The mansion would be thoroughly searched by the family's investigators, so he needs to keep those things away for now. The next step was changing himself into a red-haired woman in a black dress. The disguise skill can be used in 2 ways. The first affects how he reflects light and sound, so if someone touches him he would realize there is something wrong. But for everyone looking in the security cameras, he was now an ugly woman with big breasts. As for the second way, it can create an illusion of a thing's existence, and Victor has to be near it, or it would only last for a few hours. He went to a nearby post office and wrote a letter to be delivered in the morning in 2 days. A young master shouldn't be doing such thankless things. I would need to form my secret organization soon, he thought. Although Lily can hide her presence, she lacks the experience of doing a complex task. And she would be probably suspected by the family, so he had to keep her in the dark. With the fieldwork finished for tonight, he went back to the mansion. The trip took him 2 hours, as he had to be very careful not to be spotted. It was close to 11 p.m. when he entered his room through the window he left open earlier. He quickly took off his muddy clothes and went into the bath to clean all the dirt off him. Then he changed into silky pajamas and sat down on his desk, writing a note on a white piece of paper. Then he folded it and put it in an envelope with the words, "Read and destroy," finally written on it. This would be left for Lily just in case. Now, the situation has changed, so I need to prepare, he thought as he hesitated for a moment, then called Arya's phone. She answered immediately. "Good evening, young master, what can I do for you?" she said in a cold voice. "Were you already awake, or did I wake you up?" he asked. "Does it matter?" "Not really. For the trip tomorrow I would need you to come with me." "I can't do that, I don't have time to play." That was not a question, but order is a family heir. "And wear hiking clothes, we might need to go into the forest." "Be here at 7:00, and bring another van, some friends are coming too," he said, and hang up, not waiting for her to answer or hang up on him. She likes to argue, but would never defy an official order. And he was doing this for her own good. The actions he took today would make some events unfold a couple of years earlier. But that was not necessarily a bad thing, he just needs to be ready. Now to do some cooking, he thought. Ellipsis. When he reached downstairs he met Lily. "Has just come from the outside, young master, the mansion is clean. There were no bombs or surveillance," she said. "The twins and Hilda?" he asked. "They took Hilda to her room in the servant building, they would be spending the night there with her," she said. "Good," he said, "now go sleep, that's an order. I need you at your full strength tomorrow. I still need to prepare a few things for tomorrow's trip," he said to her. Lily, who was looking forward to sleeping with her young master, was a little dejected, but she knew that after today's events there would be some problems. And she needed her strength tomorrow, so after nodding her head, she went to her room to sleep. Victor looked at her leaving and smiled. He should pamper her more. But not now, as he had some dirty things to do. Ellipsis. Looking through the packages that were near the door, Victor quickly located the things he bought in the market earlier. There were many items, so he sorted them out, and quickly found the brown bag he was looking for. So he took it and went to the kitchen. Time to do some brewing, he thought. After closing the kitchen door, he unpacked the bag on a table. In it, there were 9 dried herbs. He quickly separated them into 2 groups. One contained 6, including the black rose petals, and the other had 3 herbs. Then he took out a normal little white herb he picked earlier from the woods. This is a very common herb, but it has some very nasty effects when combined with the black rose petals. This medicine by itself is a traditional one, it is commonly used by women giving birth. But what many didn't know is that this medicine has two kinds of components. The first ones are to increase the birth contractions to aid the birth, while the others are to ease the pain and relax the muscles. Victor smiled as he put herbs in separate pots, then added the white herb to the first pot and added a healing pill with the second one. The first is the poison and the second is the cure. He filled the pots with water and put them on the stove. He will let them simmer in boiling water for a while. He would need them to be concentrated. Although Victor never really practiced alchemy, he lived alone for a long time and read many secrets, so preparing a simple recipe like this was an easy matter for him. With that, he got out and locked the kitchen door, then returned to the entrance where the rest of the packs were. He bought many things today and they needed to be packed for tomorrow, so carried them to his room and began to pack up. First, he took out a big hiking backpack and put a hiking and a climbing kit and medical kit in it, then a little pickaxe and the little chalice he bought from the antique store. In addition to some dried foods. He didn't know how long would it take. Then he prepared 2 additional smaller bags for the twins and Lily. It took him nearly an hour to return to the kitchen and check on his work, which was mostly done. So he quickly fished 2 small plastic jars and filed them with the watery medicine he brewed. Then cleaned the pots, leaving no evidence. After he took the jars back to his room and packed them, he looked at the clock to find it was 1 a.m., so he decided to sleep. He might not get another chance to have a good sleep in a while. Chapter 45. Getting ready. It was early morning when a knock on the door woke Victor up. "Come in," he said. The door opened and Lily stepped in gracefully. "Young master, it is 6:00 am. You need to get ready," she said. Victor slowly got up and stretched his limbs. "Oh, okay. Help me find something suitable for today's hike, I'll go take a shower," he said as he took a towel and entered the bathroom. His shower took a few minutes, and when he returned to the room, Lily quickly helped get dressed, with a little blush on her face, then they went downstairs. Hilda was in the dining room waiting with the twins. They bowed in salute when they saw Victor coming. They seemed fine after a night's sleep. "Good morning, young master," Hilda said with the twins. "How are you feeling today?" Victor asked her as he sat down to begin his breakfast. "I am much better now thanks to the young master's pill yesterday," she said, then she tapped the girls on the back as a signal. Mina and Mana moved forward and bowed to Victor. "Young master, we wish to thank you for your help in saving us yesterday. We were very occupied with Aunt Hilda that we forgot to thank you properly," Mina said. "Oh, and how do you intend to thank me?" Victor asked as he opened his mouth for Lily to put a peeled egg in it. They didn't expect such a question. How does he want them to thank him? Isn't saying thank you enough? Should they do other things? How would the girls be able to thank the young master? Hilda said, helping the girls. "Ah, how about this?" said Victor as he swallowed another egg. "Today on the trip you will serve me in front of your friends," he said, making the girls look at him with pleading eyes. They did not want to be embarrassed in front of their friends. "Don't worry, we would just say that we bet on something and I won the bet, how about that?" he asked. They looked at each other and nodded. He sounded reasonable, and they are his maids anyway. "Good, now join me for the meal. I don't like the feeling of eating alone," he said the truth for once. "Yes, young master," they said and sat down to eat. 5 minutes later Mina suddenly looked at her young master who seemed to be texting on his phone and spoke. "Young master, I want to ask you something," she said while hesitating, then looking at Hilda who was sending her a signal not to ask. "Ask," said Victor as he pressed the send button and put his phone away. "Yesterday, how could Nick use that weird ring to inflict pain on Hilda, and then he tried something on us, but it didn't seem to work. What is that ring? And does it have anything to do with the tattoos?" she said while keeping her head down. Hilda rebuked them yesterday night when Mina asked her, and warned them not to ask such questions. But the twins really needed to know, so they chose to ask Victor, who despite his unreasonable young master facade, they felt that he was good to them. "Ah, about that," Victor pondered a little then answered. "Well, this is a secret, but I can tell you some of it," he said, making the twins very curious. "The tattoo on your backs are created with something called an artifact. Think of it as a magical device," he said while looking at the girls' unbelieving eyes. "I am not kidding. Didn't you notice that after I did something to your tattoo the day before yesterday it changed its shape?" he asked, making the twins look at each other tattoos quickly. They didn't notice that as they were busy most of yesterday. "This tattoo allows the master to control the life or death of his slave," he continued. "Hilda is my father's servant, and he controls her tattoo, and the ring that was with Nick is called an administrator ring. Think of it as a delegation of power. It grants its holder the ability to punish servants as if he was the original owner. Father probably gave it to Nick when he sent him here to manage the estate. The girls gasped, wanting to ask something, but Victor did not allow them and continued to explain, "It didn't work on you because I marked you the night before. You are considered mine, and not my father's, so only I can punish you," he said to the girls, who looked a little terrified. "Don't worry, if you didn't do something that would hurt or betray me, I would never use such cowardly means. I have better punishing methods," he said as he looked at Lily, who shrank her little butt. The twins looked at each other with a little fear in their eyes. They didn't think that things were this serious. But they were lucky they fell into the hands of such an understanding young master, not someone like Nick. "Young master, why didn't you mark Aunt Hilda too? She would have probably been able to stop Nick if you did," Mana said, as she saw Hilda a long time ago beat that loan shark who was after them with one punch. "It's not that I didn't want to, but she is already owned, and my father would need to dispel his mark before I can mark her," he said as he wiped his mouth and stood up. "That's all I can tell you, for now. You will know more sooner or later. Now go get ready, wear some durable clothes since we will have to hike through some woods. Ah, and I have already prepared 2 bags with things you might need. You can find them in my room, the pink ones," he said as he knew the girls wanted to understand more about such magical means. The twins nodded, then went back to their room to change their clothes, knowing that those are all the answers they would get for now. "Young master, what should I do with that trash near the door?" Hilda asked as she pointed to the scattered pile of clothes. "Leave it be, and if someone came to collect it, let them take it." "Did you call my father?" he asked. "Yes, yesterday night, and he said that you don't need to worry, he will deal with Nick," she said with a smile. "That's good," Victor said before turning to Lily. "Go fetch the 2 black backpacks from my room. You will carry the big one, while I will carry the small one," he said. "Yes, young master," said Lily as she went upstairs. Looking at his phone, Victor found it was about 6:30, so Arya should be here any moment now. Ellipsis. It was 7 o'clock. Victor was sitting on a leather chair and drinking a cup of freshly brewed coffee, while the girls were sitting around him checking their backpacks and wondering why did Victor pack all those things in there. Aren't they going to spend just an afternoon there? When they asked Victor, he completely dodged their question, telling them that this is the way that this young master does things. Soon they heard the sound of a few cars parking in front of the mansion, then Hilda guided Arya into the living room where Victor was sitting. "Good morning, young master," Arya said while giving Victor a cold stare. She didn't like how he forced her to come. "Good morning, you look very good. An interesting choice though," he said as he inspected the camo hunting suit she was wearing. It suited her well, maybe a little tight around the chest. "What? I didn't have any other clothes suited for such a trip. You should have told me earlier. This one I wore when father took me hunting once," she said with annoyance. "That does not matter. Is everything ready?" he asked her. "Yes, I got 2 vans, and we are all ready to go," she answered. "Did you have breakfast?" he asked her. "Yes, on the road coming here," she spat back. "Good, let's go then, follow me," Victor said as he carried his backpack out of the mansion where the vans were parked. Chapter 46. The Mountain. The van waiting for them had 4 rows of seats and could fit 10 people easily. Victor walked to Arya and threw her a small backpack. "Carry this for me. If anything were to happen to it, I will tell father about your disobedience," he said, then got into the van and found a place in the back long seat with Lily, while the girls sat in front of him. Arya clenched her teeth, then turned away and sat next to the driver, as she wanted to get as far away from Victor as possible. "Let's go then, we will be meeting with a few friends at the first bus stop before the mountain, so keep an eye for them," Victor said as he laid down and put his head on Lily's lap, then closed his eyes. Arya looked at him with a piercing gaze, then looked at Lily, who seemed to be very happy with the situation. She seemed to be playing with Victor's hair. "This girl has already fallen," she thought as she turned her head forward and gestured to the driver to go. He was trying hard not to look at what's happening in the back. Ellipsis. The van was on the road for 20 minutes when Victor opened his eyes and asked the twins in a soft voice, so that Arya in the front would not hear him. "I didn't get the chance to ask you yesterday, what was Tom's decision? Whom did he choose?" he asked. "Ah." The twins hesitated a little and then answered. "Young master, he said both," Mina said while keeping her head down. "What a pervert. Are you sure he meant that?" he asked. "Not really, he seemed hesitant," Mina said as she was thinking about Tom. "He might be a pervert for real. So what are you going to do? Would you both prefer to stay with me? He asked. The girls hesitated, they wanted one of them to escape servitude, but Tom's answer and attitude did not help at all. Okay, I will find a chance to ask Tom subtly later, this way we can get a clear answer, and you won't have to embarrass yourself anymore. He said with a warm smile. The twins nodded their heads in approval, they were really embarrassed yesterday. And their young master is always very understanding. Arya in the front was acting as if she heard nothing of the conversation between Victor and the twins, but her ears were pointing backward for a while now, and she was amazed by her brother's ability to scam little girls. Although she didn't know the full story, she got the gist of it. She was not that young and naive. I have to be careful, she thought, this young brother of mine is pure evil. At this moment Victor's phone rang, it was Margaret. Ah, hello Margaret, where are you now? Good, we would be there in about 10 minutes. Yeah, see you later. He said and hang up. They are waiting for us at the bus stop, so hurry up. He said to Arya, before returning to his blissful nap. Arya, who was at the front, nodded her head, then made sure to keep her attention on the road. Soon she saw 16 standing in front of a rural bus stop. Are those the friends he talked about? Miss Arya, those are our friends right there. Mina's voice came from the back confirming Arya's thoughts. So she quickly asked the driver to park the van near them, and the other van also stopped. Arya went down and greeted everyone, and introduced herself. Hello everyone, my name is Arya, I am Mr. Victor's secretary. Why don't you get into the back van and we shall get going? She asked. Ah, hello Miss Arya, my name is Tom. Tom immediately greeted her with a charming smile, making her blush a little. He had such an effect on women. Then he looked at the front van and saw the twins and Lily sitting there by themselves. So he waved his hands at them and said hi. Miss Arya, why don't we go to the front van? We can fit inside, Tom said. He wanted to sit next to that girl in the back. It would be a little cramped though, said Arya. Isn't there a large empty seat in the back? Asked Peter. Ah, Mr. Victor is currently napping there, so it is not empty, said Arya with a little blush. Making Tom and the others go forward and see that Victor was indeed asleep, happily drooling on Lily's lap. Ah, fuck that pervert, thought Tom. But he didn't give up, he became more determined not to let Victor stay alone with the girls. It's okay, the car would fit us and we could squeeze in, he insisted. Arya didn't know what to say, but the boy named George saved the situation. I can sit with Sarah on the other van, he said, wanting to spend some time with her, as he has long wanted her to be his girlfriend. Arya looked at the girls searching for Sarah, and one of them with a blushed face nodded a little. Fine then, get in, let's get going, she said, then returned to her seat. Margaret quickly ran and took the seat in front of the twins with Anna, leaving Peter and Tom to sit behind the driver. And the convoy began to go up the mountain. Ellipsis. Young master, why did you request that we wear hiking clothes? You surprised me when you sent me that message. Asked Margaret, who turned to the back to look at Victor. I didn't tell you before, but I heard rumors about the mountain being a magical place with some secrets, so I thought it would be such a waste to just visit the movie set. Maybe we can go explore a little and get to know each other more while we are there, he said, making the girls feel excited. This young master is cool and courageous, they thought. This entire mountain belongs to my family, you see, he continued. My father brought it in the past. He thought it contained some treasure, but after searching for 2 months he found nothing, so he left it here. To rot, he said, making the girls' eyes sparkle. How rich do you need to be to buy a mountain then get bored with it? The twins quickly got why he had them carry such packs. It seemed the young master had this idea from the start. He wanted to go treasure hunting. Tom glared at Victor in the back. This pervert wants to take advantage of the girls in the mountains, he thought. The mountain is very dangerous. I advise you not to do such things. Many hikers disappear there every year. And father already said that there was nothing there, said Arya from the front. Of course, I know, so going with me is optional, but not for you, big sister. You will come with me and the twins. He said, making her clench her jaw and ball her fist with anger. She knew that she had no choice. Why do the girls have to go with you? They are free to make their own choice, Tom suddenly said, making Arya likes him more, while the twins flinch a little. Ah, I made a bet with the twins yesterday. And I won, so they agreed to serve me the entire day, Victor said with an evil smile. He had agreed on this with the twins earlier. What bet? Is it true? Asked Tom as he looked at the nervous twins, who nodded their heads. That's a secret, Victor said mysteriously. If you are too scared to come with us, you are free to stay. He taunted him. Who said I am scared? Of course, I would come, I won't let the girls suffer with you. He said as he swore not to leave the girls alone with such a man. As for the bet, he would ask the twins later, when they are alone, they would never hide anything from him. Arya looked at Tom and nodded her head, that's how a young man should be, not like her perverted brother. Chapter 47, Into the Woods. The van went up the mountain where green forest trees dotted both sides of the road, the environment around them got greener and richer the more they went up. This mountain had a special air around it as if it was from another world. Soon the convoy which has been going up for half an hour stopped in a forest clearing, where the movie was being shot. This was also where the road ended, about halfway through the mountain, and no car can go any further as the terrain gets very rough. There, staff and employees were busy going around, making things ready, and checking on various pieces of equipment. The shooting didn't start yet. The vans parked beside the other equipment trucks after a security guard checked their identity. Arya got out of the van first, followed by everyone, and lastly Victor, who stretched his stiff limbs as Lily helped him straighten his clothes and comb his disheveled hair. Ah, hello Miss Arya, I am Mark Silverberg, the director of this movie, and this is John Sigma our star. There is no further need for introduction, a thin man with gray hair greeted Arya with a smile, then pointed to the muscular handsome man beside him. Hello Mr. Silverberg, Mr. Sigma, I came here today with the CEO of our company Victor White, she said as she introduced Victor and then everyone else as Victor's friends. Hello Mr. White, we are very pleased to meet you, they said to Victor. I am happy to meet you too, why don't you show us around? Victor said. The director greeted everyone then gave them a tour through the set. The shooting would need another hour to start so he was not busy, and he wanted to get closer to Victor, as he knew that this White family was super rich. Maybe he can convince him to produce the script he wrote. Victor, to the astonishment of everyone, did not act arrogantly but smiled and talked to the two men about the shooting like a real pro. That was until he ruined his image again. Mr. Silverberg, where is Miss Mira? I wanted to have some private time with her, asked Victor as he looked around. Mira was the female star of this movie and was a new rising actor who had started acting just last year. The two low-budget movies she started in were both a huge success. But Victor didn't want her for her talent but her beauty and character. If he wanted to compare her to someone, that would be Lily. Lily had the calm and serene beauty of a spring fairy, but Mira was the opposite, she was as hot as a nuclear bomb. She was one of his girlfriends in the past, one of the faithful ones, and she was also a victim to one of his brother's schemes. Unfortunately, Mr. White, Mira would not be here, her scenes have already finished filming last week, Mark said. Ah, too bad. Arya, find a suitable time for me to meet her, he told Arya, who shot him a look then took a pen and scribed his command on her notebook. Why can't her brother be more content? He already has many pretty girls around him, she thought. Mr. White, how about my new idea, can you help us with it? We have already been rejected by many production companies due to the huge cost of the project, so we propose a partial investment, he asked. How about I completely finance and produce that idea of yours? But I want the right to choose some of the actors. Victor interrupted Mark and said. In his previous life, those two men were very successful later, they broke records with every movie they partnered in. So he decided to invest in them now. Yes, of course, that would be perfect, said Mark with a big smile. Good, then let's find time later to sit down and have a talk about cooperation, he said. Arya, make an appointment for Mr. Silverberg next week, he told her, then returned to Mark. Now you have some shooting to attend to, and I and my friends would like take a look around and meet some of the actors, so I would not bother you anymore, Victor said to Mark and walked away. He lost interest in the shooting after knowing that Mira was not here. He attended many shootings in his past life, so he didn't care. After touring the set for a while and getting some autographs for the girls, Victor stood up and looked at everyone. I am going to take a hike and try to explore a little of this mountain, you are free to follow me if you want, Victor said. I will stay with Sarah here, said George, who was holding the blushing Sarah's hand. They seemed to have bonded together earlier and wanted some time alone. Fine by me, anyone else? Victor asked. Can I not go? Asked Arya. No, he answered blandly, making her pout. Margaret looked at Anna and nodded, conveying her intent to go. This hike would create a good chance for her to get closer to Tom or Victor, who was surrounded by many girls now. She does not mind sharing though, as long as she gets a place near a rich young master, and some allowance maybe. As for Anna, she didn't want to be left alone with the lovebirds and reluctantly decided to go, as she could tell that Tom and Peter would definitely follow the twins who were serving that young master. Was it really just a bet? What did they bet on? She wondered. Tom and Peter went forward to the girls and offered to carry their backpacks for them, but they were coldly denied. The girls knew that the young master entrusted them with these things, and they didn't dare let anyone else carry them. Tom looked at Lily, who was carrying a large backpack, with a pickaxe at its side. Then went to her and flashed his most dazzling smile. "Miss, can I help you carry that bag?" he asked. "No," she stated coldly, then turned around and began to go after her young master, who began to venture into the woods. Tom hesitated a little, then followed with the rest of his friends. He wanted to ask for her name, but he didn't know who to ask without sounding like a pervert, but he really wanted to know. Margaret looked amused as she watched Tom's repeated failures. Unlike the others, she has been keeping an eye on everyone, and she knew that Tom, although looked like a gentleman, was as possessive and lecherous as any other man. She doesn't mind though, she was not that clean, and her childhood was not a pretty one. She dated many guys, some were much older than her, and came to know that most of them are just the same, perverts in cheap clothes. But like all girls her age, she yearned for a true lover. So she decided to find some rich young master to be her husband. At the very least she would still be with a rich pervert. At first, she set her eyes on Tom, who became rich overnight. Then she met Victor, and that made her hesitant. She knew Tom from her childhood, knew him enough to read his dirty mind. He was always timid and introverted, but suddenly 1 year ago, after the summer break, he returned to school as a new person. He was more confident, charming, and most importantly rich. He said that he won the lottery, but Margaret was not that naive. She could tell that he held some secrets. Then she looked at Victor, who was leading everyone arrogantly. She only met him yesterday, but the feelings she got from him didn't match his image. He looked like an arrogant rich young master. But she had a feeling that this guy was a dangerous monster, and if she messed up with him, he would eat her whole. In addition to that, the twins seemed to be unnaturally obedient to him too. But when she looked at the way Lily looked at him, she seemed to find the feeling she was searching for, that of dependence and real trust. Maybe that guy had secrets too, who doesn't? Most importantly, he was filthy rich, far richer than Tom. "What are you looking at?" asked her Peter, who has been pestering her for a while. She didn't like this guy. He is a petty person, and unlike Victor, Peter felt more like a fake young master who was trying too hard to wear a suit that did not fit him. Although he was rich, he was an idiot, and would probably spend all his parents' fortune sooner or later. "Nothing," she said, and kept moving to catch up with the rest. She didn't want to stay alone with him. They had been walking in the woods for half an hour. The woods slowly turned from a somewhat normal mountain forest to a mythical place. The grass was still green and the trees were still tall, but the scene was different, but no one could tell why. Suddenly, Victor stopped after leading them into a very beautiful clearing filled with flowers, grass, and some boulders poking from the ground. "We will rest here," he said. They didn't know it, but Victor had reached his destination. Now he has to find a way to activate it. He left the group, who seemed to be a little tired, and began to inspect the grounds, searching for the signs he read about. "What are you doing, young ma?" Victor asked Mina. "Don't mind me, I am just investigating this mountain. I am certain that I could uncover its big secret. That street oracle said that my luck would be at its peak today and the planets are aligning in my favor. Just stay close," he said arrogantly as he continued to look around, making the girls shake their heads. They started to look around them too. They were amazed by this place. It looked ethereal with all the blue and white flowers blooming under the sun. If there was really a secret on this mountain, it should be here. They got tired soon and found a place to sit down and rest. After a few minutes, Tom took the opportunity when the girls were admiring the flowers and slowly approached Lily, who was standing alone watching Victor go around and pocket random rocks with a wooden stick like a maniac. "May I know, what is your name, miss?" he asked like a gentleman. "Lily," she answered without looking at him. "Ah, Miss Lily, what a beautiful name. May I inquire about your relationship with Victor?" "You seemed very close to him," he asked with a smile. "He is into cold girls, he likes the feeling of conquering them." "I am his personal maid," she said blandly. "Ah, I see. What?" He was surprised. No wonder she allowed Victor to sleep on her lap like that. He must be molesting her. And what is the difference between a normal maid and a personal maid? Could it be that? No, no, no. It can't be. That Victor must be using some evil means to control her. Tom didn't know why he hated Victor. nor that his very existence was screaming at him, Victor was a danger. But, he, who fancied himself a hero, decided that he must save this miserable girl from her horrible fate. From the clutches of this evil young master. Don't worry Miss Lily, he tried to say but was interrupted. Ha 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 ha, I found it, look at this, doesn't it look like magic? Come look at it, yelled Victor, making everyone look at him then go to look at what he had found. Victor was standing in front of a flat white rock, which had some foreign symbols on it. He was tapping at it with his stick in excitement. Isn't this just some scribbles on a rock? Some kids have probably done it as a prank, said Peter who poked his head from behind. But Tom who was much more experienced and was watching carefully saw that the symbols were changing, very slowly, like clouds in the sky of a summer day. They were definitely changing, then they began to move faster and faster as Victor continued to tap it at Tom who realized something suddenly yell, no, stop, get away from. But it was too late, the stone shattered as if it was made of glass, and a blue tide of light came out of it, sweeping over them and swallowing everyone in the clearing, including Arya who was a little further away, then shrank again leaving a blue revolving vortex where they stood before. It only took 2 seconds. Victor, who was being swept away, smiled and let the vortex swallow him as he looked at the blue shimmering screen above his head. Dungeon opened. Congratulations, you are the one who discovered and opened this dungeon. Dungeon discovering reward. 1. Dungeon map. 2. 10 free allocation points. 3. E-rank skill book, Spear Arts. Further rewards on clearing. Good luck. Chapter 48. Dungeon. Scholars wondered for years on the subject of dungeons. There is no definitive answer, but there was a prevalent theory. The dungeons are pockets of other worlds, they seem to invade ours by chance. If the world deemed them dangerous it would confine them with a barrier. However, sooner or later the barrier's energy would deplete and a gate would open allowing people in at first, and if it was left untreated the barrier would disappear and what's inside would leave it to wreak havoc into the world. A dungeons was both a blessing and a curse, it contained dangerous monsters and precious metals and herbs. Once a dungeon was cleared of all the things the world deemed dangerous, it would collapse and merge with the world, revealing its treasures to the outside world to be mined, so the world's hidden powers would usually fight over them. But before it is cleared, people can come in but not out. That is not usually a problem, as once a dungeon was opened only full player can get in, and whoever controls it would send a ready team of players, but sometimes if the dungeon opened where people were already standing, it would swallow them regardless of their status. Those people would then be granted a player status. It was called Dungeon Awakening. Many powers tried to send their youths who were not fully awakened to search for such dungeons so they may get a chance to advance. But finding a dungeon before it opens is easier said than done. It was much later after the reckoning when dungeons began to appear every other day that a method was created to forecast dungeons opening. And even then it was more of an art than a concrete science. At this time dungeons are rare, maybe one every month. The strong families and alliances started to fight for access rights long ago, but one day they stopped and formed the dungeon agreement after they lost all their forces in an S-rank dungeon. You can't know the dungeon's rank until you go inside. If it was dangerous you could only tell when a dungeon has already swallowed legions of players without being cleared. The agreement was drafted officially to let unaffiliated players and all the powers have an equal chance to clear the dungeon and take whatever spoils they gained inside. But the truth was they needed cannon fodders to explore and act as shields. Once the dungeon closes, the precious land left behind is for whoever has enough power to own it and control it. And once it was owned the others have to respect that. Victor knew that there was a dungeon here, this entire mountain was affected by its otherworldly energy, and just now he has forced it to open by just tapping on the rock hard with a stick. It was like a pimple that was about to burst, and he gave it the last nudge. Back then, it happened after a month of Victor arriving at Vane City, the dungeon burst open and was discovered by the filming crew which altered the family. Thankfully this dungeon was already owned by them, so no other powers tried to take it from them. After sending a full team the dungeon was quickly cleared, as it was a low-level dungeon. Victor only heard about it from his father. After the clearing, it seemed to have been opened by a wandering hiker. The players' team found him inside hiding inside a cave. And when he came out they offered him to join the family but he refused. It was Victor's task back then to convince him, but he failed and could do nothing. The agreement states that players who awaken in the dungeons are free to choose their own destiny, and as long as they abide by the rules, no one can harm them. That hiker died later though when he revealed the secret of being a player to the press, so the same agreement that protected him killed him. And the media report was quickly changed to make the hiker a crazy man who committed suicide. The majority of players didn't want their existence to be exposed to the public. Now let's see what do we have here, thought Victor as he looked at the walls surrounding him. It was a damp gray rock cave, illuminated by a faint green light coming from algae that seemed to grow out of the cracks in the rocks. A typical wild dungeon. He was alone, everyone was separated, but Victor was not afraid as he had already given the girls enough supplies in the bag. As for the others, they can only count on their luck, but they would probably survive like that hiker. This was just an F-rank dungeon after all. The Goblin's General Dungeon. F rank. Clear condition. Kill the Goblin General. He could see this screen when he entered the dungeon, and everyone else should see this too. So they would be stuck here until that general is dead. Once he is dead, the world rules are enough to eliminate all of the other goblins, and the dungeon would be considered clear after that. There was something else. On the corner of his vision, he could see the dungeon's map all the way to the boss's room and the exit. This was a part of his reward for opening it up. He only knew the position of a handful of other dungeons. But they are not ready to be opened yet. One of them is an S rank. There were some dots, some red and some blue on the map, which seemed to update every minute. He was a blue dot, so he knew that the red ones are the goblins while the blue ones were humans. There seemed to be only 2 secluded blue dots, the others has formed 2 groups and were staying in their positions, probably assessing the situation. There were no goblins near them, so they should be safe for now. He brought the twins and Arya here on purpose, wanting to make them players. Especially Arya, he did this to save her life. When the family investigates Jacob, they would probably discover that she aided him, but that is not the problem, because Arya had another secret, one that caused the family to kill her when they discovered it back then. This time, however, she would be a player. And killing a player in the family would require the patriarch's approval. That would grant him enough time to save her. Wait a minute, he told himself, why are there 10 blue dots? The only ones inside the dungeon should be him, Lily, Arya, the twins, Tom, Peter, Anne, and Margaret. Those are 9. That dot was the closest to him and moving in his direction, so he decided to investigate it. If it was any of the girls, he would be able to help. He activated his disguise skill, hiding his presence, and walked towards the dot. It took him 1 hour of walking in the maze-like dungeon to see the shadow of a man dressed in black. This was not someone he knew. He wore a black mask and seemed to be a player, so Victor appraised him. Name: Olaf. Level: 31. Abnormal status: Slave weak. Class: Spy. Authority: 4. Strength: 33. Intelligence: 32. Agility: 50. Luck: 13. Charm: 8. Order: 11. Skills: Shadow Cloak, A. Critical Dagger, B. Follow Trace, E. Hide Presence, F. If Victor didn't see him on the map, he might not have discovered him. That Shadow Cloak skill was similar to Lily's. It only works if you didn't know you were there. He observed the man for a few moments, and from his movements art, he could tell that he belonged to his family. But was he sent by his father or the other factions? Does it matter? No. Victor didn't like to be spied on. This guy must have followed him from the mansion, and that meant he had a car, and maybe a partner, but only this guy entered the dungeon with them. Victor showed no hesitation as he took out a dagger he bought yesterday and approached the unsuspecting man. It was as easy as slaying a chicken. The man felt something was wrong. He felt a strange airflow against his skin. He was not alone here. He should be careful. His enemy. He didn't continue that thought. He just felt a cold sensation in his throat and he stopped breathing the next moment. Victor quickly inspected the corpse's back, searching for the family's tattoo, and there it was, a tattoo of 2 daggers over a round shield with a lion's face. This is defiantly not his father's, it was them. They must have sent him to see what happened with Nick, and maybe to gather some incriminating evidence. He searched the man's body and retrieved the recording device. It was an advanced one with many features. Victor didn't try to open it as he knew he didn't have the tools required here. He just used all his strength to crush it, including the memory chip. He stood there watching as the body dissolved by the dungeon's power, leaving only the clothes. So he quickly used his dagger to create some battle damage on them, then left the area with his disguise on. An hour later he reached a stone hall where he noticed 3 red dots were walking nearby. Victor, who was hidden, could easily see their green skin, hooked noses, and large red eyes. They were goblins, one of the weakest sentient monsters. They wore makeshift armor made of some kind of leather. 2 of them had stone knives while the last one had a wooden bow and arrows. He has dealt with those a lot in the past, and he knew their weaknesses. Their defense was that of a human child, but their attacks were deadly, so he approached the one walking behind and plucked his dagger into his heart. He left it there and backed away. As the two others began to look around, they thought it was a thrown dagger, so they split up to hide behind big boulders and began to look deep into the cave, so they didn't notice when Victor leisurely smacked them with a large stone on their heads. It only took him a minute to kill one and knock out the two others. With his disguise, a low-leveled goblin that didn't have AoE attacks would not discover him, so he had no rivals here. Looking at the unconscious goblin at his feet, he smiled as he took out the ring of the minor masters he stole from Nick. That idiot used it on humans, but its unique power is that it allows a player to not only enslave a target but also communicate with it, so you would be able to use it on any sentinel being, including goblins. Now he had all the tools he needed and can concentrate on his master plan. Dealing with Tom, he smiled as he reached out for his backpack. Where did he put that pickaxe again? *T, he forgot it with Lily. Chapter 49, Awakening. Arya could feel the hard rock floor under her body when she regained her conciseness. She heard the sound of someone arguing, so she opened her eyes and looked around. Where am I? What happened? It looked like she was in some kind of a cave. Tom was standing there arguing with Lily, who gave him a stubborn look as she crossed her hands and faced him. Miss Lily, I didn't expect you to be a player too. I know you want to rush to find that guy Victor, and I appreciate your commitment, but this place is a maze and the best way to save everyone is to clear the dungeon. We have to start searching for the boss's room. If Victor is smart, he would be trying to do the same thing, so we will meet him sooner or later. You don't need to go around searching blindly and alone in a dungeon. That is both pointless and dangerous, he said to Lily, who seemed a little convinced. I have to ask you about this though, he said seriously to Lily. Do you or Victor belong to an overseer power? He asked. Lily did not answer, and he took it as a sign of approval, so he frowned a little. It seems his hunch was on the spot. That Victor, although seemed arrogant, he gave Tom a dangerous feeling. And what kind of a young master has a player made? He must be one of them, and most likely a player too. Then answer me this, do you belong to the Von Astrom family? He asked with an obvious fury in his eyes, making Lily, who didn't want to speak with him, hesitate a little. He had the same look of hate she had when she wanted to kill Guy, so she chose to compromise and answer him. No, we have no relationship with them, but I can't tell you which power we belong to without the young master's permission, she said, then sat down and began to inspect the contents of her backpack. Arya, who was eavesdropping, felt that their conversation was over, so she slowly sat down and began to inspect the environment around her. But before she could do that, someone groaned beside her. Ah! It was Peter, who had just regained consciousness. Where are we? What the hell was that? And where is everyone? He asked as he sat down and began to look around. Was it a cave-in? Did we fall? He asked as he checked his phone to find it without a signal. Tom looked at Peter and Arya, who were panicking a little. He cleared his throat and began to speak. No need to panic, we are in a dungeon, one similar to that in video games. Look over your heads to the left, Tom asked, making Arya frown, as this was not the right time to tell a joke. But when she looked up, she quickly gasped in astonishment. There was a blue shimmering screen in her field of vision. It just came into focus when she looked at it. What is this? A log of some sort? She thought. WARNINGYOU have entered a dungeon, initializing dungeon awakening procedure. Welcome player. Analyzing input data finished. You have successfully awakened as a player. Your attributes have been automatically assigned by the system. Name: Arya WHITELEVEL. 0 CLASS. MERCHANTAUTHORITY. 2 Strength, 15 Intelligence, 23 Agility, 13 Luck, 14 Charm, 30 Order, 10 Skills. System Store Access Level O. Player Market Access Level O. Basic Shield, E. Setup complete. What the F***CK is that? Said Peter as he looked up with wide eyes. Is this for real? What does this mean? Arya asked Tom and Lily. She didn't believe her eyes. Tom hesitated a little, then began to explain the existence of players to the astonished Arya and Peter. You have now awakened as players. Think of it as a video game, but it is real. Now you will have superpowers and will be able to level up by killing monsters and doing missions. The status screen is where you are assigned a class and attributes. Since you were awakened by a dungeon, you did not get to choose your class. The system automatically assigned you one. Try it yourself. Interact with your status screen. You can see all kinds of explanations on every attribute you look at. You can also try your skills, he said, making Peter ponder a little and start to explore his status screen. Arya needed a few seconds to absorb all this information. Dungeons, players, awakening. That last word, she heard it before, Wasn't it the one used by the family to describe the ceremony? Could it be? She thought of her brother as she decided to inquire about this matter from him later. She quickly looked at her status screen and started to interact with it. Indeed, Tom was saying the truth. How can this be? This is not scientific, she thought. Ha ha ha, that is truly amazing. Is this for real? Said Peter as he pinched himself. Ah, it hurts. Now I am a superhero and I would get a lot of chicks to like me, he said laughing, making Lily and Arya look at him with disgust. Tom ignored him and continued talking. I have been a player since last winter, and it seems that Miss Lily is a player too, he said, making Peter and Arya look at her. Lily didn't answer, just nodded her head, then turned her head to look into the darkness of a nearby passage as if she was searching for someone. Tom didn't care as he knew that Lily was looking for that guy Victor, and he hoped that Victor would perish here. He looked at Peter and Arya as he continued his explanation. As I told you, this world has many people who awaken the power to be players just like video games. And it has dungeons and monsters too. And we are in such a dungeon. Luckily this one is a low-ranking dungeon as it seems to be a goblin's cave. We would be able to clear it ourselves with some effort. I have been in 2 raids before. Tom said proudly. Why no one talks about these things? Shouldn't players be famous? Peter asked. Well, this world has certain powers. They call themselves the Overseers. They are composed of 5 families, 3 sects and 1 organization. They have more power than most countries and forbade anyone from disclosing information about the existence of the system and players, Tom answered as he clenched his finger. He seemed to hold some grudge. I have to warn you though, never reveal anything. People died for this before. He added, making Arya and Peter cool down a little. Now I need to know your classes and authority, he said. I am an archer, and I have 2 authority. Is that good? Asked Peter. Yes, a fighting class is always good. We will have to find you a bow and some arrows. Most players get 2 authority when they awaken, so that is normal, Tom said. Then he turned to Arya. And you? Miss Arya, don't tell him. A player shouldn't reveal his class and attributes without a good reason. Your skills are your secret weapon. Suddenly Lily warned Arya before she could answer, making Tom look at her with an inspecting gaze. She was smarter than what he expected, but that did not matter. He turned to face Arya, and convince her. Don't get me wrong, Miss Arya, I just wanted to know about your class so that I can find a suitable role in the fight for you. We might need your help as our only way out of here is by defeating that goblin general. He said with a charming smile. Arya didn't know what to do, but after seeing Tom's smile she chose to tell him. She didn't have a powerful class anyway, she thought. I have a merchant class, she said, making Lily frown a little. If Victor was here he would nod his head as if he expected this result. Even a business genius like Arya would fall for Tom's smile. That is how strange the effect of science is on normal people. It was as if they become NPCs in front of them. So unlike Lily, whose fate was already tied firmly to Victor's, Arya didn't feel anything abnormal when she told him. That is good, Tom nodded. While you would not be very helpful in the fight, you can use your skills to buy remedies and health potions for us, he said before turning to Lily. Miss Lily, I really need to know your class to incorporate it into my plan. This is very crucial for our success, he said in a serious tone. When he came to, he found that Lily was awake too. Unlike the other 2 who were still unconscious, he knew that they were being awakened as players. When did she awaken and what are her powers? He really wanted to know. He has pretty much confirmed that she belonged to some power, but that won't stop him. He will get her sooner or later, he thought as he looked at her. This is very important. He pressured her. Tell me yours first, Lily asked, surprising him. She was not that easy to manipulate. I am a warrior, he said, hiding his true class like every smart player. You never know when your best friend would betray you for some treasure, especially in a dungeon where there is no one watching. Ah, me too, I am a dagger warrior, said Lily as she took out a black dagger from her bag, acting as if she was a warrior like him. Tom looked at her but said nothing. He didn't know if she was telling the truth or not, but during the coming fights, everything would become clear. Where do we go now? Asked Peter as he looked at the branching tunnels surrounding them. Nowhere. We should check our equipment and our status first. We don't know how long we would be staying here or when we would get a chance to rest again. Do you have anything useful? He asked. Peter shook his head, then looked at Arya and Lily, who were carrying big backpacks. What about you? He asked Arya, who seemed far friendlier than Lily, who was still hiding her mouth behind that semi-transparent veil and was giving Tom and Peter some cold stares. Arya wanted to answer but she didn't know what was in it. This bag was given to her by Victor, who didn't explain anything. So she quickly opened the bag and inspected its inside. It was full of food bars and some water bottles. But upon further searching, she found that it had a rolled sleeping bag in the bottom, and a medical kit too. Arya was surprised. Why did her brother pack these things? Did he anticipate such a situation? Or was he planning to go on a camping trip? I have a sleeping bag, some food, and a medical kit, she said. Tom nodded his head. It was not unheard of to bring such things when hiking in the wild. Then he turned to Lily. What about you, Miss Lily? The same as Arya's, she answered without even looking. Why is there a pickaxe poking from your bag then? Asked Peter. Private matters, she answered. But sounded unconvinced. Did you or Victor know about this dungeon? Arya suddenly asked her. She had to know. Did her brother bring them here on purpose? Why would he bring a pickaxe if he just went hiking? It can't be, Tom said. A dungeon can't be found before its opening. Maybe Victor heard some rumors about the mountain like we did and wanted to try his luck, he said, and he turned out to be quite lucky, he thought silently. But that pickaxe, said Peter. It's useless here. He probably wanted to dig for some treasure, said Tom as he stretched his hand to Lily. Can I borrow it? He asked. Lily hesitated for a second but then gave it to him. She also wanted to know if this thing would work here and if the young master brought them here on purpose. Tom took the pickaxe and began to hit a nearby wall with it. At first, a lot of rocks were smashed under his inhuman strength, but after digging for 2 minutes it began to produce yellow sparks when it impacted the rocks and it failed to make a dent in them. All the dungeon's walls are protected by the world rules, so after digging for a while you will reach a limit, which can't be dug before the dungeon is cleared, he said as he returned the pickaxe back to Lily, deliberately touching her little hand in the process. She shot him a warning glare as she quickly retracted her pretty hand, and carefully returned the pickaxe to the backpack, then took a handkerchief to wipe her hand. Tom did not mind but smiled a little. Girls, her kind needs a lot of time to conquer, he thought, not knowing that Victor conquered her in 3 seconds. After a little rest we will start searching the dungeon. The boss here is the Goblin General. He should be in a goblin settlement. So we just have to find some of them and follow their trails. They would probably leave some tracks, Tom said as he looked into the dim tunnel in front of him, wondering what kind of rewards he would get for clearing this dungeon. Chapter 50. First Kiss. Lily looked at the goblin which was unsuspectingly approaching her. She got her dagger ready and held her breath. Shadow cloak skill hid her body but not her sound, and in these silent caves, any small noise would get you discovered. As the goblin approached her, she could see his ugly look and sharp fangs in the dim light. Now or never, she told herself when the goblin passed by her. She pounced at him and struck him in the neck where Tom told her the goblin's main artery should be. She used her penetrating dagger skill so that she would cut through the goblin's thick skin easily. The goblin didn't make a sound as its red eyes dimmed slowly. It was dead. Lily watched it as it turned into dust, leaving a stone dagger and a small red gem, which she quickly collected. According to Tom, these gems are used to create medicine and fix artifacts. They can be sold to merchants for a good profit. Her young master was a merchant too, so he would probably like these things, she thought before frowning as she remembered him. They have been in here for 24 hours already, and she did not find a trace of him. Is he doing fine? Does he need any help? She wanted to venture alone and find him, but she knew that such actions would be stupid. Her group was now resting in a chamber with a single entrance. Tom called it a safe area. It was easy to defend and hard to attack. She was tasked with guarding the entrance of the tunnel for the next 2 hours while they rested. She can't leave them. While she could easily get rid of lonely goblins, and 2 goblins won't be hard, however, any more than that would be dangerous. They have encountered groups of 5 goblins yesterday, but thanks to Tom's instructions they were able to safely get rid of them. He also taught Arya and Peter how to fight and defend themselves. Tom is not that bad after all, she whispered her thoughts. She quickly shook her head. Why was she thinking about Tom? Her young master was the only one in her heart. What was that? She thought as she saw a shadow approaching her from the dark. She activated her area inspection skill as she got her dagger ready. It was a strange monster. It had the structure and height of a man, but it had a black face, white disheveled hair and gray muddy rags covered its body. And the way it walked was very arrogant, as if the dungeon was its own playground, just like the way her young master would walk. What? You don't recognize your young master anymore? The monster asked, mimicking her young master's voice. Wait, isn't that the young master? She thought. Ah, young master. Lily screamed and ran into Victor's arms, and put her head into his chest, so that he could embrace her tightly. I was very worried about you, young master, but I couldn't leave and search for you. she said as tears began to fall from her eyes. I am fine, I just had some things to do, he said as he patted her head. What happened to you, young master, why are you covered with all this dust and mud? She asked him as she inspected his body. That's a long story, and I don't need your companions to discover my existence, so keep your voice down, he said, dodging her question as he checked the map to make sure that they were still in their place. Ah, sorry, she whispered. Tell me about everything that happened the moment you entered the dungeon, he said. Lily began to tell him about how she stayed with the others, how they awakened, about her conversation with Tom, and how they began to hunt for goblins as they searched the dungeon. Making Victor frown when he heard that Arya was a merchant. But then he smiled, he can incorporate this into his plan. Thankfully he didn't intend to use a normal poison on Tom, as those can be healed quickly with a healing pill. What he is planning to use was considered medicine by the system, so system skills and medicines would not heal it. In his past life, it was used by one of the imperial concubines on the emperor. He heard that story from a close friend who worked at the palace and was responsible for the investigation. He thought silently about random things as he continued to listen to Lily speak about Tom's achievements. Tom taught us many things, he said he was in 2 raids before, she finished her tale, gaining herself a heavy slap on the butt. Ah, young master, why? She asked. Did you notice that for the last 15 minutes you have been doing nothing but praising the Tom? Weren't you just mumbling about him when you met me? He asked with a smile, making Lily shiver a little, then lower her head in shame. He has been watching her when she killed that goblin, he wanted to make sure that she was alone. I am sorry young master, I don't know why, I just have this strange feeling about him, but I only have the young master in my heart. She said as a few tears dropped from her eyes. Victor knew exactly what was she feeling, it was Tom's fate beginning to affect her. She wants to like that Tom, but her connection with Victor was still stronger and was helping her resist. Don't worry, she heard her young master say as he pinched her chin and removed her veil on her mouth before kissing her red lips softly. Lily froze in her place, she didn't expect that and didn't know what to do, but before she could savor the feeling of his lips, they left hers. She wanted more. Lily looked at her with a smirk and made Lily quickly hide her blushed face with her hand, it was as red as a tomato. This was her first kiss. This is not the right place nor the right time, he said as he patted her little head. I already activated my disguise skill, so they would not feel my existence, but we can't take much time, he continued. He needed to do this to break Tom's spell on her. And it seemed to have worked as he could feel the fate thread between him and her becoming more relaxed. Now, quickly, I need a change of clothes, do you have that backpack, he asked, waking her up from her trance. Lily quickly reached to a nearby crevice and took the backpack out, she didn't leave it with her companions as she didn't want them touching her young master's things. So she kept it near her when she was not carrying it. Victor took it from her, then grabbed some clothes from it to change into while Lily guarded him. The dungeon was a dangerous place. It's okay, there are no enemies so you can relax, he said with an evil smile. 9 goblins were waiting in the shadows, those were his newly acquired slaves. Young master, do you need that pickaxe? She asked him. No, not anymore, he said as he remembered the suffering he had to go through to achieve his goal. He did have the goblins to assist though. Now listen carefully, I need your help for the next plan, he said as he packed the dirty clothes in the bag. After about 2 hours, a herd of goblins will attack you. Just stay near Arya and protect her, and make sure not to kill any of them until Tom is injured. You can attack and kill them all after that, he said, he would not be needing those guys anymore. The young master plans to kill Tom? Lily asked nervously. Tom has helped her a lot, she didn't want him to die. No, he will live, and he will leave this dungeon without a speck of dust. It is just a little punishment for hitting on you, he said as he closed the bag and stood up. He felt the urgent need to get rid of that Tom, his effect on Lily was very strong. I will not travel with you, as I have to find the twins and guide them, they don't have a mentor like Tom. I will meet you at the boss's room, he said as he patted Lily's hair. She grabbed the corner of his shirt with her little hand, she didn't want to be separated from her young master again. Don't worry, I am stronger than you, and I will be fine. Just keep everything about our meeting a secret and act natural. You guys would need another day to reach the Goblin General, so make sure to rest well, no goblins will approach this area until the attack. And don't worry about me, I will be spending my times with the girls and they will pamper me well, he said with an evil smile. One of your companions seemed to be coming, so quickly put your veil on, I need to hide, see you tomorrow. he said as he quickly disappeared in the darkness before Lily could say anything. He was intentionally flaming her jealousy so that she would keep thinking about him and not pay attention to Tom. Soon footsteps could be heard, and Peter, who woke up to pee, passed by Lily, who was watching Victor's disappearing shadow in the darkness. "Miss Lily, sorry to disturb you, but it's nature's call," he said. She didn't answer, just kicked his ass, sending him face down into the dirt. "You stay and guard here. I will go get some sleep," she said as she grabbed her backpack and headed towards the safe area. Leaving Peter wondering, how did I upset her? He thought, not knowing that he had just ruined a young maiden's secret affair.